Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are adventuring into the spaces between where life is just an adventure. We are being broadcast live, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And if you're listening in on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe and hit the little bell down below, and you'll know when we're going to be live again. So, no matter how you are hearing me, make sure you do stop in and say hello. And I want to thank you for joining me here on the Spaces Between and on my spiritual journey. And I hope you will want to continue learning with me. Now, if you do want to support the show, I have a Patreon account or Patreon. Sorry, I pronounce things oddly. And the website, I got a hold for a moment, I guess, on the website. It's going. I just have to link it up correctly because technology. I'm hoping to work on that tomorrow in my copious free time. It's a 3-day weekend. I don't have to go to the real world. I can stay in my pagan world, which, you know, is every bit as real to me as everything else, just not as distracted by paying the bills, sadly. So now we are live tonight, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio. And if you would like to call in, that number is 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, that number is 44203-393-2871. So thank you. And so last week, Deb joined us on Saturday, which was awesome, talking about some of the aspects of being a psychic. And I do have that video available. I will be loading it again tomorrow. And then on Friday, we talked about the elements of a ritual. Now, the reason why that came up and why I wanted to talk about it right then is because I was writing a ritual for a group of friends that were coming over. And it was just something that, you know, a lot of folks who are new to the path may not know what the elements are. So I had a lot of information and we didn't go through it all, and I figured we'd go back and kind of touch on it a bit, and also just some real basic ritual etiquette, because there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And of course, folks that are more OCD and more absolute, or even more I lost the word, scripted in their ritual, or more exact, and those folks are going to be more unforgiving, I guess, when it comes to their ritual. And if you do certain things, you will definitely upset them. And if you are with someone who's a little bit more relaxed, such as myself generally, you're going to be okay. I may tell you to stop because, that happens. But, for the most part, it'll be all good. So, anyways, if you do have a question, by all means call in. And, yeah, I think it'll be good. So, just to go back to the ritual bit, of course, we had gone through mostly the bits, the different types of rituals, what to do. We'd gone through the different steps a little bit. We hadn't really gone into the different phases of the moon, which tonight is the new moon, so it's also a great time to set your intentions for the coming month. Now, often that just is not necessarily ritualistic, other than really in your mind and setting your mind in that right space or that right place, mentally and emotionally, where you are, getting prepared for the coming month. And you can write whatever that intention is on a piece of paper or a bay leaf, either one. And then you either burn it in your candle or your cauldron and just let that intention go out into the world. It's also a good time to let go of things. So if you've got something that you're trying to let go of, some bitterness, anger, some emotion that's just heavy for you to carry, that is just a real thing. And you can also release that out into the world or out into the universe by writing the same things down on a little piece of paper and burning it in your cauldron or in your candle. Now, for those of you that are more in the pagan pantry or broom closet, I have heard, I've not done this, but I've heard, but I suppose the theory is very similar. Write it on a piece of toilet paper, flush it down the toilet. You're flushing it away and getting rid of it. If you need to get that crap out of your life, I guess that's one way to do it. So, that's just one thing. Just a real quick in the chat rooms, just to see who's here. It looks like we've got Renee, hello Renee, and Cameron, and Aether Archives, hi Dawn, and Blacktree, hi Julia, and Cameron, yes, that is called an eclectic pagan if you believe in all of the gods, or pull some aspect of your belief from those or from the different pantheons. And then in TFR, looks like we've got Ken, hi Ken, and Ra and Brent. You guys sounded great tonight, and Jackie O, hello. So shouts out to hi everybody. And when in the new moon, of course, it's like I said, a time of preparation. So the moon is yet to be reborn. So as when it comes to magic, this is a good time for new beginnings. And it's also, of course, in some traditions seen as a time of rest when no magic is worked. So kind of depends on your tradition or your path. And if you're planning on some sort of dedication type of ritual, this might be the best time also, because it's a good time for an examination of hidden things and mysteries, and also just setting those or starting those new beginnings. Hello, Hestia. The waxing moon is when the moon becomes visible again. It's a state of growth. And I did go over some of this last weekend, so it's a little bit of a repeat. But, some things are just a good thing to repeat. Hi, Bigfoot in Germany. So when the moon is growing, it's called waxing. And this is a good time to work and focus on things that are growth and development. So if you're trying to improve a situation regarding love or just general blessings, so as the new moon grows, the strength of the blessing will grow as well. And at this phase in the moon cycle, it's manifest once more. So it's a good time just to do some of those rituals and magics that are geared towards bringing something into fruition or drawing things closer to you. The full moon, of course, the moon is full and bursting with light and power, and it's a good time for a lot of workings, especially those concerning the female and the goddess energies. And it's a good time for fertility rites, of course, and just calling upon the female deities in general. And it's a good time to focus on the culmination of things that you've been working on. So if you've got a business deal you're working on, full moon is a good time to really kind of focus on getting those business deals tied up, or relationships, or things like that. The waning moon is when the moon is decreasing. and it's also a symbolism of a movement towards death. So it may be a good time of the week to perform magics that focus upon endings. So that may be the better time to do some sort of ritual or practice that is setting yourself up to maybe quit smoking or stop some other bad habit, that kind of a thing. Um, some do see this as a good time to contact the dead, but others, in different traditions on different paths, would see the full moon or even the new moon would be the better time. So really, really, it is all about your path and your traditions and what you believe and what you're doing. Now, days of the week are also often significant when it comes to doing a ritual. Um, Most of the days are actually named after certain gods. So if you're going to work with those specific gods or goddesses, it may be a good time to petition them on those specific days. For instance, Monday was named for the moon. So it's often a good day to work with things that may involve female issues, emotions, the mysteries, because Monday is ruled by the moon. Tuesday is Tyr's Day, and Tyr was a Norse god noted for his great valor in combat and his just intense and incredible honesty. And he was willing to sacrifice his hand so the gods could bind the great wolf Fenrir. And then the Romans marked Tuesday by the god Mars, who is still the planet that is associated with Tuesday. And so workings or magics performed on Tuesday often pick up the traits of both Tyr and Mars, and is regarded as a good time for works of discipline, courage, athletics, passion, those types of things. Wednesday is traditionally considered Odin's Day or Woden's Day. Odin is the Allfather and chief among the Norse gods. Now, he was seen to be the wisest of the gods, and he removed his own eyes so that he might obtain the secrets of the runes, so the Elder Futhark runes, which were later then gifted to mankind. So Wednesday is ruled also by the planet Mercury, who does share some connections to the naming of the day in Latin. So the Wednesday is a day in correspondences with both Odin and Mercury. And so it's a good time for doing workings or performing magic that's associated with wisdom or artistic pursuits, and also communication and or travel. And then Thursday, of course, is Thor's Day. So Thor is the god of thunder and struck down his enemies using his magical hammer Mjolnir. And Thursday was also attributed to Jupiter by the Romans. So Jupiter is loosely the Roman equivalent of Thor, so in regards to the naming day and also wielding the power of the thunderbolt. So the alignment of Thursday is generally kept more in connection to Jupiter, which is the ruling planet, than it does have to Thor. But it's a good day for workings that focus on leadership, prosperity, wealth, and also health. And then Friday is Frigg's Day or Freya's Day. Frigg is the wife of Odin and the goddess associated with love, marriage, fertility, and motherhood. So it's no surprise that she should just be the equivalent of Venus for the Romans, who marks this particular day as well. So Venus is still the ruling planet of Friday, and so Friday is the best day to do workings or perform magic regarding love, romance, friendship, sex, and beauty. And then Saturday was Saturn's Day, and so it's really the only day that's really stuck more to the Roman name and Saturn. So Saturn was the god of harvest, and so Saturdays often seem to be the day to reap rewards of labor and to put an end to your work for a time. And it's pretty much appropriate as the first day of the weekend. Now, Saturn is comparable also to the Greek god Kronos, who's the ruler of the golden age of man. So Kronos' mythology shows that he was more of a conqueror who attempted to gain and to maintain his own power. So Saturday mirrors that to just a bit. So it's also seen as a good time for workings that involve removing obstacles and addressing problems. So, and then Sunday is just the day of the sun. So, of course, this day is unsurprisingly aligned with the sun. I mean, it's obvious. And So Sunday is a day for authority, success, and sovereignty. It precedes the feminine alignment for Monday. So Sunday has a very masculine tone to it. So it's just a really good time for performing workings that are related to men. And then in the chat, Cameron, you asked a question about the Norse pantheon. So yeah, so yes, there are people who believe both the Christian way, and also in the Norse pantheon, in Norway and also in other parts of the Scandinavian area, and it's there's a lot of overlap there. The Norse religions or traditions are actually having a really, really major comeback, and they just are. I think they're building their first Norse type or Norse themed cathedral in Norway. I think it is. Don't hold me to that. I'd have to research and double check. But it's definitely making a resurgence. People seem to really be drawn to the old ways, the traditions, the traditional ways, and the traditional beliefs. And I think that's a good thing, because we are becoming more and more in tune with our roots, and I think that's very, very good. And Renee, I don't know that much about metal bands. That would be an Aether Archives question. So if Don comes on later, maybe he can address that as well. So I don't know. I don't know that much about metal, other than some of it's very not generally my genre. All right, so back to the ritual stuff. So night and day also have an impact on when a ritual may be performed. So because they have some slightly different astrological connections, and there's a lot of information there, so I suggest you research it. But just as a kind of a quick overview, daytime, the sun is in the sky, so it's the best time for any kind of working that's related to the sun. Now, it doesn't mean it's the only time you can do those workings, but daytime is when light is out and exposed, so it's a good time for open celebrations, especially those that you don't mind being public. It's often a very male-oriented time, and it's just a good time for celebrations of virility, athletic activities, etc. The sun is also very significant for solstice and equinox rituals, in which the entire point is to use the passage of the sun as a focus for the ritual. So it's kind of the right time of the day for that, because the ritual focus, especially in the equinox or the solstice, are marking the shortest and longest days of the year. Is also the sun entering its both lowest and highest phases, or points in the phase. Anyways, nighttime is often for private functions and secret gatherings, as the time of darkness is often connected to the mysteries, so it's well suited to those types of rituals. The moon is the ruler of the night, serving as a light in the darkness. And as previously mentioned, the moon is aligned to the feminine energies, so the night is well disposed to workings with the feminine energy, such as the goddess. Now, there's no reason why you can't work with those energies during other times too. It's just often there are a little bit more of a closer connection or a closer tie there. Now, the night can also reveal different constellations. So if you're trying to do astrologically themed workings or rituals, you need to take that into account as well. And so there's a lot more information. You can look at astrological alignment, mystical numerology, those types of things. There's stuff online, there's books, etc., etc. So also your specific path, whatever that may be, is also going to need to take into account those different ways to practice or have your ritual. So offerings are something else that people often use. So if your ritual is intended to give some sort of worship to a specific deity or guide, it may be appropriate to make some sort of offering or sacrifice. Now, incense is very common in many religions, with certain scents throughout as being considered pleasing to the gods. So if you intend to do this, you do need to make sure that you have the appropriate incense as well as a burner or censer to use it. And the smoke from the incense can also be used to represent the element of air, and for some it may be used to help purify the area. Now, some people do simply find that incense makes it just more pleasant and a better environment to do your working in. Now, for the ritual that we did this past weekend, we used both burned sage with lavender to both purify the body and also because it smelled great, and as a symbol of air. So it's often we will use different tools for more than one thing, and that's just kind of the way of it, I think. Now, what should you offer? Now, you're going to want to take some time to learn about the deities that you're going to work with if you have not already. That way you will know what is appropriate when it comes to an offering. And the offerings are typically made to show honor, respect, and gratitude. And of course, remember that different types of gods and goddesses do have very different expectations that you will want to consider when making an offering. Seriously, do some research. So now, bear in mind that despite the reciprocal nature of your relationship with the divine or your deities, it's not a matter of I'm giving you this stuff so you'll make my wish come true. It's more lines it's more I honor you and I respect you, so I'm giving you this thing or this stuff to show how much I appreciate you, and by the way, could you please do this thing on my behalf? But it's not necessary because I already gave you this. So what do you want to offer them? For example, you don't really want to give flowers to a war god or, fire to a water god. There, you need to just do your research. And you also want to think about what those gods represent to you personally. So pay attention to what they have asked of you in the past or what you've given in the past. And if you haven't taken that time to learn enough about the deity to know what is good for offering, are you sure you're honoring the right deity? Think about it a little bit and make sure you're on the right path. In general, bread, milk, wine, mead, honey are generally almost always appropriate for any deity. Now, for specific ones, based on the different types of gods, there are like hearth and home deities. Often appreciate things that come from the kitchen and garden. So if you take the time to grow and harvest something, you might want to make a contribution that you've either grown or baked yourself. So goddesses like Bridget or Hestia, particularly cooked items or home cooked items or a craft project. Food, bread, grains, cooking oil, salt, those types of things, milk, wine, cider, and then herbs are things like rosemary or thyme. Now, for gods of love and passion, think outside of the box a little bit. So what brings seduction and romance to mind? Food would be like eggs or honey or apples. Drink would be like wine or fruit juices, and herbs would be lavender or sandalwood. Now, for the gardening or nature deities, a lot of folks make an error in offering something like plants or something like that, but they already have those. So what would they want from us? Instead, bring things from your home or things you wouldn't normally see in the garden, like food, bread, cornmeal, fruit, milk, water, bay leaves, a craft of some sort, pomegranate, and then for prosperity and abundance, you might want to bring things like grains, dairy products, cheeses, eggs, milk, beer, wine. Herbs would be like mint, pennyroyal, catnip, because those all generally reflect abundance and growth. Again, food and dairy items are almost always acceptable. Certain herbs are more acceptable, but what makes you feel abundant or like you've got a plenty? Now, offerings for ancestor spirits are often tricky to work with because not everybody's ancestors are really the same. So again, go back, do your research. Do your research. Some typical items that might make good offerings, no matter what your background, include food and drinks from your own meal. Just like there's often an empty place setting to honor someone or those that are missing. It's not just in paganism, but even the absent soldier place setting that you might see in a restaurant, especially around Veterans Day, which I think is a great tradition, are also representative of that. But any food would be any meal from your family's table or drink, sage, sweetgrass, that type of thing. But in general, it's a good idea to take the time to learn about your own personal heritage before you make any of the offerings. So do your research. And then offering for childbirth and fertility goddesses, like Bonadea or Hera, often appreciate offerings related to conception and pregnancy, such as dairy products, again, baked goods, herbs, that kind of thing. Eggs keep coming back because eggs are representative in a couple different ways. Baked goods are sweets like cookies, milk, including breast milk, actually. And then those herbs would be rose, sandalwood, apple blossoms, that type of thing. Now, remember, your altar is definitely your workbench when it comes to having a ritual. You may not need one for the ritual itself. However, it's a great place to put your tools, your offering, if you have one, that kind of thing. And often they're very practical in their usage. And when it comes to tools, those are going to vary a bit with your ritual in all reality. So make sure you're using the tools necessary. Have a recipe card. Okay, I'm a kitchen witch, so I write everything down on a index card. Seriously, for a ritual last weekend, I had index cards with my notes to make sure I had everything the way I wanted it to be set up and to not forget what I was going to say. So that's a big deal, guys. Don't be afraid to take notes. Practice just a little bit. It's important. So again, the lines are open tonight. The number is 213-233-3998. And hey, guess what? We're at the bottom of the hour, so we will see you in just a bit.
shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea. I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and of Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are adventuring in the spaces between. And we are being broadcast live on this lovely Friday. Um, it is just a good evening. I'm excited for the 3-day weekend. Have to tell you. The call lines are open again. Just wanted to remind you, it is 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond and in the UK, that number is 44203-393-2871. Now, if you guys have an idea for a show, or if you just have a general question, you need some advice or some direction, by all means, give me an email. And that is wildpaisley@gmail.com. And that's WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. So, we're talking about rituals and such. It's been good. And it is. We're just kind of talking about some of the elements in all reality. There's a couple different elements. And you need to make sure, like, for instance, you're not doing a spell or ritual to quit smoking when you're celebrating the birth of a god, that kind of thing. So just make sure whatever casting or working that you're doing is appropriate. Now, spells in themselves often take the shape of rituals in their own right, just so you know. As such, they can be designed along similar guidelines, although there may be more things to consider in regards to how, when, and why you are casting a spell. But as far as designing your spell actually goes, it's also worth thinking about how well your magical methods will fit into the rituals that you're already doing. So consider, are you going to need extra tools for your spell? Are you going to need extra items? Do you need do you have enough space? Do you need more space? But more importantly, though, is the method that you will use to weave your spell. Some methods may not be practical in your ritual space, such as drumming and dancing, especially if you're in an apartment. Just saying. And you may need more space than you possibly have and annoy your neighbors. Skyclad, downtown, not a good combination. Be aware of your surroundings. I don't want to hear about something going wrong because you didn't pay attention to where you were when you decided to go skyclad somewhere. So just be sure to consider those hidden variables, and often not hidden variables, and don't show off all your assets when you're designing your spells or your crafting. So in doing some research, I came across just this ritual etiquette thing. Just real basic. Actually, it's really basic, and just a lot of it's being polite and respectful of those around you. So, and it's not like you're going to write in Dear Abby or somebody like that and say, hey, what should I do at a pagan ritual? Because often they're not going to have the best advice for you. So, even though you're nervous, and it's okay, especially if you're new to the pagan path, and you're not quite sure what to expect, it's okay. You can always ask questions beforehand or after. If you're really new, don't be afraid to take like a notebook with you or something to write on, to jot down notes if you do have questions as you're observing. That's good. What should you do or not do? So just real basic. Be on time. That's huge. Be on time for a ritual. Be a little early. Sometimes that's good. Often pagans are very, very bad at starting anything on time, and that's a legit thing. I have heard the term PST as being pagan standard time. It's that imaginary type of time zone that a lot of pagans live in, because we're kind of doing things at our own speed. But being late's rude. Period. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So keep it in mind. So, yes, many musings says tonight's a new moon, not full moon, right? Did I miss something? I think it's new moon, dear. But yes, pamper that goddess within, without a doubt. So, be discreet. For many people, especially millennials, being openly pagan is really no big deal. But some people do have serious consequences if word gets out that they are pagan. Um, so just be aware of that, especially for those that are more in the broom closet than others. Some people have lost their jobs, their homes, custody of their children, even because of just the many misunderstandings when it comes to the pagan path. So, without 100% sure protection for religious minorities, which pagans are still, it should really be up to each individual person how and when they want to come out of the broom closet. So don't out to your brothers and sisters. It's way not cool. And so if you're attending a public ritual and you see someone who is pagan, but you haven't seen any evidence of it before, like they're probably in the broom closet, when you bump into them in the grocery store and they've got, their mother-in-law next to them, don't say, "Hey, it was great seeing you at that pagan ritual the other day." That's just not cool. I mean, really not cool. Journalists do really need to identify themselves before taking any photographs or interviewing people. So just be aware of that also if you're taking photographs, because it may be normal for you to post them up on Facebook, all these people that you hung out and had a good time with. But if someone is still in the broom closet and you're outing them that way, it's not a good thing. Don't do it. So as a guest, you should only take photos with permission. Don't tag people on social media unless you've asked ahead of time, and just make sure there's no identifying information like license plates, that kind of thing. So just be careful and be respectful. If you don't want your tatas hanging out in public view, nobody else does either. So think of it that way. If you're not putting your bits out for display, don't put somebody else's bits out there. It's not cool. It's not okay. Don't do it. So minimize your distractions. So etiquette at a pagan ritual is just the same as it would be for any other public performance or gathering. Be attentive. Mute your phone. Don't bring a lot of small pets or wild children unless you're confident that they won't cause a disruption. Unless the children are a part of that ritual. So just be aware and mindful. Just be mindful of it. Pets often don't really know what's going on, and it's kind of like a yappy dog in the middle of any performance. It's going to disrupt the people around you. So and also next, don't touch the ritual tools. Just saying. So pagans tend to use a lot of stuff. Some are very awesome looking blades, cauldrons, statues of gods, goddesses, ceremonial robes, fruits, flowers, etc., etc. And for those who are very tactile, that want to touch things, don't touch the knife. It's not yours. So many pagan tools are ritually consecrated and energetically keyed to their owners and their users. So it's very much a breach of etiquette to touch someone else's tools without permission. Kind of like letting someone into your underwear drawer. If you're okay with it, that's one thing. But if someone, just random stranger, comes into your house and gets into your underwear drawer, you're going to be upset about it. The same kind of level of don't do it. Seriously. So, if you ask, often pagans will be happy to let you handle their tools. After a ritual is generally better than before, because often those tools are ready for that ritual. And some won't, of course. So just accept a no, and don't push it if the owner hesitates. Just be respectful again. Respect a sacred space. So pagans often don't have fixed places of worship like a church or a synagogue. We just don't. So like a turtle with its shell, we carry our spiritual home with us wherever we go. And I think that's great, actually, because it's everywhere. Our rituals can be anywhere. So pagans often transform everyday places like picnic tables and living rooms into temples for the duration of a ritual. And just because it looks like an ordinary space doesn't mean that it's not also sacred. So once a space is set, respect it as you would any other house of worship. So that would mean things differently, of course, depending upon the tradition. But it generally means don't litter, don't argue, don't hurt anyone. Often it will include removing your shoes, being quiet, leaving your food and drinks at the door. And if you're not sure what is expected of you in the sacred space, check with someone who is from that area, or whoever is kind of managing things. Now, in some pagan rituals, respecting the sacred space means committing to the ritual for the duration. So leaving early, even if you decide the ritual is not for you, can actually create a physical and energetic disruption that will affect everyone else there. So if you think you need to bail, talk to an organizer beforehand, before you exit. Now, the Wiccan term casting the circle often refers to the practice of creating a boundary between the magical and mundane. And the circle is kind of a container for any energy that might be invoked during the ritual. Now, non Wiccans use the psychic boundaries and containers in the creation of the sacred space. So, a common ritual practice is cutting a door in the circle to allow participants to leave while leaving the structure of the circle intact. Not everybody does this. Now, breaking a circle is generally a big no-no, especially in solemn or energy-intense rituals. So it's less of an issue, of course, at a large or informal public rite. But if you do leave early, try to do so with a minimal impact on the ritual's flow. So just be aware. Just be aware. And then participate. So pagan rituals are generally not a spectator sport. It's not like you're going to a basketball game or football game. If you're attending it's a ritual, it's generally expected that you are going to participate in some fashion. So this could mean different things like singing, chanting, interacting with others, or just sit quietly during a meditation or blessing. And don't worry if you don't know exactly what to do. Many pagans are very welcoming towards curious observers and those who are respectful. And you make even just the slightest effort to join in because they are grateful that you're there and trying to learn about their path. And I think it's awesome. We love having new participants, but just be respectful. So being a willing participant also means being in harmony with the purpose of the ritual. It doesn't mean that you necessarily need to do something that goes against your will, because you should never feel required to touch another person, for instance, drink something, speak publicly, or doing anything else that makes you uncomfortable. It's unethical for ritualists to try to pressure you into doing something, especially after you've expressly declined. Now, experienced ritualists will often let you know in advance what the ritual is about. That way you can make an informed decision to be in or out of the circle before the circle is cast. If you have a physical limitation, allergies, or other concerns, that's when you seek some sort of accommodation. And the ritualist may not be able to work with every type of special needs, so you need to be understanding of that as well. But you can always ask. Now, in most cases, the presenter will want to make the ritual enjoyable for as many of the participants as possible. Don't rewrite the ritual. That's just not how we do it. So, yeah, I mean, if something's not for you, don't just say, "Well, I object to the gender binary construction of the Great Rite." Okay, well that's fine. Then maybe this one isn't for you. Or do you have gluten-free cakes and ale? Most people don't have that kind of thing. If you're allergic to incense, just maybe you shouldn't be where you can inhale it. Or don't say, "Hey, wasn't this supposed to be over 10 minutes ago?" Remember, I was talking about PST not too long ago. It's Pagan Standard Time. We're running on our own clock. We do things kind of the way we do. So be respectful. And don't rewrite it. So attending a pagan ritual means you're agreeing to defer to the priest or priestess who is in charge for the 5 minutes to an hour that you're there for. You don't have to agree with them. That's okay if you don't. You don't even have to respect them necessarily. But unless you're witnessing something that is very dangerous or illegal, keep your critiques and your corrections to yourself. It's being respectful, something that people don't seem to remember how to do quite often in today's society. Now, the person performing the ritual is probably not there to recruit followers or to impress people. Generally, they're not there to get paid. They're doing the ritual out of love and to give the gift of their ability to the best of their ability. They're trying to share with the people around them. So with these in mind, I recommend approaching a pagan ritual with an attitude somewhere between the ones you'd bring to a college professor's lecture and a kid's dance recital. Yes, I know they're far apart. But be respectful because a lifetime's collection of knowledge is on display, along with a lifetime's collection of opinions, biases, and just quirks and foibles. So be generous and be prepared to applaud for even a mediocre performance. I mean, a lot of people, this is their first time they've ever done this kind of thing. Now, paganism is a permissive, inclusive culture that values individualism and dissent. The result is that there is a know-it-all backseat driving heckler at every other public ritual. Don't be that person. Don't offer those helpful suggestions afterward, and unless you are part of the ritual itself. Yeah, you can always ask why. So, let's see. So, watch your energy. Yeah, so, if you have someone who is coming with you who is not pagan, they may be worried, or they may be stressed. They may feel that everybody can read their mind or know what they're thinking, or anything that might be, or do something that might be offensive, and they may be just walking around on eggshells. Keep your mindset in the right place before you go into a circle. So if you're really stressed about participating, maybe observe rather than participate, and that's okay. Because you don't want to take that apology or that I'm trying to not offend anybody sensitivity to an extreme. Now, there may be high-level telepaths, but often, if you stop and think about it, do they really care what you're thinking? Probably not, because they can probably hear everything that everybody's saying. Seriously. They probably tune you out, unless you're saying, hey, 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 hey. Kind of like someone saying, mom, 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 mom. Or dad, dad, etc., etc. Unless you're really purposefully thinking at that person, odds are pretty good they're going to try to just keep you in the background. So the concern, though, is that bad vibes are contagious to everyone, just not to super psychics. So if you walk into a ritual feeling angry, anxious, or hostile, or ill, it's bound to have some sort of negative effect on the total atmosphere within the circle. So people come to a ritual for a chance to let their shields down and soak up that energy within the sacred space. It's not fair to just walk in there and wallop them with your crap. I mean, no one wants to be that negative Nelly. So many pagan rituals do begin with grounding and cleansing activities, smudging, anointing participants, etc. Take a few deep breaths, centering meditation, that kind of thing. Wiccans might actually enter the circle stating that they come in perfect love and perfect trust. That's their particular path and tradition. That's okay. But regardless, all of these are ways of reminding attendees to check their energy at the door before they enter the ritual space. That's all. And remember, people feel bad. It's okay. That doesn't mean you have to quarantine yourself. So one of the purposes of spirituality is to comfort the sad and heal the wounded. So you don't have to be around spreading flowers and rainbows and unicorns everywhere. It's just being a conscious custodian of your personal energy before you share it with someone else. So that's all. And I thought it was a really interesting article because there's a lot of times people just forget how to be respectful of others. So, and it's not so much that they forget to be respectful of others. It's just I know people in general listen to hear or to respond. They don't necessarily listen to hear what someone else is saying. So be the person that is listening to listen and hear what's going on, and hear the message that's being portrayed, and the the information that's coming in and the energy that's coming in. Those are all good things. And if you are having a rough day, um, that's okay. That is okay. Um, talk to your um, talk to the maybe the ritual leaders beforehand, or if there's a high priestess, maybe some of the other priests or priestesses there, or high priest, excuse me, um, just to maybe they can help you with that grounding and centering to help you relieve some of that negativity or some of that excess emotion, because there are different ways to just lose the unwanted stuff that we often carry around with us. We all have baggage. Sometimes the baggage is an overnight bag, and sometimes it's a steamer trunk. So you just need to be aware of it, and there are different ways to set it down. And I love our chat room. You guys are goofy. There's not a doggone thing wrong with unicorns. Yes, they are horny all the time. Um, Unicorns come from the end of the rainbow. So when you are, going through your ritual and everything, going back to that just a little bit, don't. There's some things that you should do after your ritual, of course. Just kind of put your mind in that mindset of closing it out and everything. If you're working in a permanent ritual space, that's freaking awesome. So make sure you tidy it up after your ritual. There's no reason to get into a bad habit. Now, your altar generally has a pretty strong connection to your spiritual subconsciousness. So if you get in the habit of keeping it cluttered and messy, kind of like my desk, then it's a mark to your personal discipline, and will begin to reflect on your attitude and focus on future rituals. So make sure you got your space tidied up. So stop the bad habits before they begin. And so if you're going to try and maintain a permanent altar, you should do it properly. Now, if you've performed your ritual outdoors, make sure that you've properly cleaned up after yourself. It's often awesome to have your ritual in a beautiful woodland clearing. It really is. But make sure that you leave the clearing just as you found it. So if you pack it in, pack it out. Pretty basic. So take any litter, ritual bits, and personal belongings away with you. If you're going skyclad on your ritual, don't leave your undergarments hanging in the tree. That's not the right way to do it. Serious. So any temporary altars, of course, should be dismantled and cleared away, making especially sure that all candles are extinguished and no incense has been left burning. And your ritual tools should be cleaned and returned to a safe and special place as well. Grounding is often a good idea to do after a ritual as well, especially if the magic has been worked during that particular ritual. Grounding is a way to allow the energies of the ritual to kind of drain away and leave us, so we're not affected by them after the ritual. And it also allows us to replenish our own energies by removing our mental focus away from the ritual and back into the world of the mundane. That way we're not continuing to expend our energies haphazardly through unintentional acts of thought. Instead, we can just kind of replenish our reserves, and by taking in some new energies and replace those that we've already spent, you can draw them from food and drink and the earth beneath us. So, yes. The process of clearing away and cleaning on the other end of the ritual can act as just a really good way to ground you as part of your process. And it brings you slowly out of your ritual mindset and allows you to move your thoughts towards mentally establishing that ritual, that it's over, and it's time to just kind of move on into the next thing. So often traditions, or different traditions, have a good meal after the ritual in order to help ground them. It refreshes their minds and replenishes their bodies from any spell work that they might have done. Now, you can also do a short meditation to ground yourself. Meditation doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be nice and short and simple. Just sit cross-legged on the floor or the ground and close your eyes and just focus on anchoring yourself to the earth and allowing any excess energy, flowing down into the earth, like we've talked about before, into the roots of the earth, um, and then allowing the energy of the universe feeding into like the branches of a tree. So once you're refreshed and grounded, open your eyes, stretch out, have a good drink. Often there are drinks at Pagan Rituals. Some drinks more than others. So yeah, just what is it that you're trying to do? Is huge. Make sure you set your intention, you know your intention prior to starting your ritual. It's huge, it's important, it's necessary. Any questions? Don't be afraid to ask me. Yes, I can help you write a ritual. It's a thing. We are just about done already. Can you believe it? Good night, Renee. And again, the email is wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. And I'll be back tomorrow night. I don't know what we're talking about tomorrow night. We've got some stuff going on. And so we will see you then. So merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, all.
Lord, within the sun, as we will, so mote it be, the spell forever done.